review minutes from the last meeting. Any comments, corrections?
No, looks good to me.
Second that.
You can't, you weren't here.
I thought we decided last time as long as you read it.
I don't remember.
I don't care. Either way is fine.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Okay.
But she can't make a motion. Oh, you can
Yeah.
vote, but you can't make a
Yeah.
motion.
Okay.
I'll motion we accept the
Okay.
contract.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Minutes passed. And Board of Health work session.
If everyone could sign in, if you haven't already, just sign in. So the first thing on our work session is a discussion with the Recreation Director, Eric Beebe, regarding development of a regulation or bylaw banning smoking on public beaches and other town-owned recreation areas. Come on up. Yeah.
Thank you for having me. I'm Eric Beebe. I'm the Recreation Director. I'm coming on behalf of my Recreation and Youth Commission about banning or prohibiting smoking on beaches and recreation jurisdiction properties. Most other towns on the Cape have done this already. We're one of the few that haven't yet. We do receive quite a few complaints every summer, especially on the beaches, about people smoking. And one thing the commission asked me to bring to you guys is whether you would feel comfortable spearheading this, as it would have a little more bite as a rule or regulation coming from the Board of Health than just coming from the Recreation and Youth Commission. I know a big question is, how do we monitor it? How do we enforce it? It's kind of one of those self-enforcing things. We're not going to hire more people. But if there's signs up at the beaches and the parks and the memorial squares that would say, smoking is prohibited per the Board of Health, per the Rec and Youth Commission, Board of Selectmen, I feel that would be enough to really deter the smoking from happening. And like I said, it's a pretty common thing on the Cape right now that it has happened. All of our recreational properties are for just that, recreation, and smoking doesn't really mix into that. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have for me.
Have there been any repercussions in any of the other towns?
They do have the way they've worded it in the other towns. For example, this is kind of a summary of the way they do it. Any person reported or observed using the above mentioned products of the town of whatever properties or adjacent parking areas will be given a verbal instruction by designated staff. Failure to comply with verbal instructions and directions may result in penalties, including the issuance of a non-criminal citation, written warning, or revocation of related parking permits. It was kind of like a step structure. I think for the most part, when people are doing things on our beaches that they're not supposed to be doing, if we tell them not to do it, they stop. Very rarely do they argue with that.
How would you police it?
Well, it would just be, as far as beaches go, it would be our normal beach staff that's there. We never ask our lifeguards to do anything but look at the water. But if they notice, if somebody comes to them and complains about somebody smoking on the beach, and it is a rule against it, they could alert our gate guards. We also have 2 parking enforcement officers that go throughout the beaches all day, every day. And they're kind of, it's not just parking. They do issue citations, so that would be a way to police that.
Do the lifeguards have any way of reaching police?
Yep, we have radios that go all through. Yep.
All right. So if an individual, like a parent,
Yep.
I'm thinking particularly, is distressed that smoking is going on because they have children,
Yep.
if they say something to the person who's smoking, that's not going to be considered harassment?
No. Yeah, it's not considered harassment. We ask that people don't persist in it. If they say something to them and they refuse to stop, we would encourage people to go to our lifeguards or our gate guards. They could radio us. I could come down, parking officers, and if it gets to it, we always have a direct link to the police department. Yeah.
How about vaping?
Vaping is actually part of it. We would, if we were to do this, it would be all smoking and smoke-related products, including vaping.
I guess you can't it would be almost impossible to say products like cookies or candy that have
Yeah, that would,
stuff in it, because how could you tell?
there's no way to
You
know.
can't.
Yeah, yep,
Just a bit
exactly.
Really erratic. You want to get the police involved anyway, because they're acting.
Exactly, yep, we would do that anyway.
What's
Yep.
more, that's not contagious. It is.
Yep, yep.
You have a list of all the towns that you already have this in place?
That already, yep, I do actually. Let me just, currently, my last research shows Barnstable, Bourne, Brewster, Chatham, Dennis, Eastham, Falmouth, Nantucket, Orleans, Truro, and Wareham, as well as the National Seashore beaches.
Thank you.
Moment.
Does that call for a motion?
Yes. You want to take questions from the audience, or no?
Right now, you're here to discuss whether you want to do a regulation or not. And if you do, then Eric and I would get together and draft something and bring it to a public hearing that is open for people to discuss.
Yep.
So we would just put our support behind Eric's proposal, it would be Eric carrying the ball on this thing, not us.
Well, it would be a Board of Health regulation, so it would ultimately be your enforcement backing, the power behind the Board of Health that would issue the citation. It would be a Board of Health citation, it would be a Board of Health fine.
But the lifeguard staff and everything is the ones that are gonna be talking it up, and
Yeah.
it just seems a little,
It's kind of similar to the parking enforcement at the moment, like if people park without a beach sticker.
yeah.
We have parking enforcement officers that are under our budget that write tickets that are processed through the police department.
Okay.
You know, a similar kind of thing,
I
yep.
just don't wanna see a little lifeguard having to go up to some early person.
Yeah, no, well, that, you know, we have all kinds of issues. We have people,
Traumatizing.
yeah, sure. I mean, we always have people that are drinking too much or doing something, and we have a very good communication throughout the beaches. We have base radios. We have beach supervisors that are always riding around, myself. We usually get there before anything, well, we always get there before anything
Yeah.
bad happens, you know,
Okay.
so.
But didn't you say at the beginning that you would prefer, maybe that's not the right word, to get the life-saving people involved, because you want them looking straight ahead of the
Oh, yeah.
water, not talking up
Yeah,
cigarettes.
I'm not gonna have them going up and down the
No.
beach looking for people smoking.
Yeah.
But if somebody comes to them and says, you know, I have a complaint, because they get that anyway, I have a
they
complaint,
do.
somebody's throwing a Frisbee at my son or whatever, you know,
Yeah.
then they radio us or whoever, you know, the appropriate personnel, and we come down and take care of it so they can keep looking at the water.
Doing their
Yep,
job,
yep.
yeah.
Would you have us put a sign at the public beaches? Is that what this?
That's what we would like to do, yeah. Have signs at especially at the entrances and kind of strategically placed spots, just saying smoking is prohibited on this, you know, in this property.
Have you budgeted for that, or has the town?
We have a budget, part of one of our budget line items is for signs, so we can handle that expense.
You want to make a motion? Are we ready to make a motion?
It's just a recommendation, right?
You need to make a motion whether or not you want to move forward or not.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that we move forward on the report here about not having cigarette smoking on these various town properties, beaches, parks, field, memorial squares, and parking areas.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you.
Okay,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Have a good one.
The next item we have is to discuss how the board would like to proceed regarding glyphosate use on town properties.
It seems to me all we have to do is endorse the status quo.
I'm sorry, we had the public meeting last week.
I'm sorry, I apologize. Discussion, so I just assumed.
All we have to do is endorse the status quo, right? Because we already have banned glyphosate.
We haven't banned glyphosate, we just don't use it very often. I did speak with the conservation agent, and they put out to bid maintenance of some of the conservation lands, and a third party goes out and maintains them, and sometimes they do use glyphosate. So that in the golf department uses it very limited amounts. Water, DPW, they don't use it. Cemetery department, they don't use it either. So,
Highway department doesn't,
highway?
right?
Highway does not, no, they don't.
So how would you suggest we word this?
Well, you could say that you don't want the use of glyphosate used on town property with very extreme exceptions.
And that includes golf course.
That would include anyone who wanted to use it through town land would need to prove that it's an extreme exception.
Is a golf course town land?
And would it include the property underneath the power lines? Is that town property?
No,
No, because I know they do it, because that's in my neighborhood. I lived right off the power lines,
no.
and they were doing it, and number of kids in the neighborhood had young children, so
Mhm.
the homeowners were quite upset about it. Who owns the land under the power lines?
The Eversource has an easement. It's
Oh,
private a lot of it's private property, but some of it's Eversource.
State
And that's
land,
the next discussion.
okay.
It's a state land with an easement. And it's actually owned by the state of Massachusetts.
Some of it is. Some of it's just easements, though.
So maybe if we amended it with the use of putting it down professionally, so there wasn't willy-nilly.
A professional,
Professional applicators?
Yeah.
Professional applicant, you can get a license to put this stuff down.
Mhm.
If you carve that out, that could leave us banned,
Leo,
and then have
special
a,
term,
yeah,
registered
That's what he
pesticide
mentioned,
applicator
yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah.
And wouldn't we want somebody, in addition to having that, wouldn't we want to have them apply to get it, so that if we're just saying we don't want it on town land and it has to be professional applicators, who's gonna be looking at whether it's being done or not? I mean, who's gonna monitor it? So I would think,
The person that would be in charge of that
Yeah,
department.
oh,
oh,
would have
whenever
to
they use it now, they
contract.
do have a license.
okay, so they
Person.
have to put in some kind of proposal license that they're gonna do it?
Well, they would know from us telling them that they'd have to continue that practice.
And anyone who has a license to apply this type of pesticide has to follow state guidelines,
Okay.
which means they have to keep track of how much they use and where they use
And where
it,
they, oh, good, that's what I was getting at.
weather conditions and all of
Okay,
that stuff.
good.
So we don't manage that part of it, just the fact that they
But
got
it
has a
is,
license.
somebody is, I think it's important.
Yes, somebody is, yes.
Private parties could still use it on their own land.
Private property, right, we're not looking to ban it town-wide, just
They're
on
trying to
town.
get the town smarter about it,
Yeah.
not using it, and they already are, so
Mhm.
not using it, I should say.
Right. Mhm.
So I'd make a recommendation that we support that with carve out that a licensed applicator through a town department would have the leeway to use it.
It's the last resort.
So you'd like me to draft some language for a public hearing to
Would
make
be-
a
I
regulation?
think it would be good for the town to know.
Mhm.
We've done a lot of research on it, we've had an expert on it. You have a comment to make?
Yeah,
This is an open hearing, can you make a comment?
It's up to the chair.
Yeah, short, please, because this is really the board's
We went through this
discussion.
a week ago.
Yeah.
yeah, you were here then, you heard the
Yeah.
discussion. I'm a resident in Harwich, and it seems the discussion, is glyphosate a harmful chemical?
No, it's
And then-
not. We know it is. Very harmful.
It is harmful.
Right.
So I feel like I would feel much better if it was just a clear directive that, no, it can't be used. Whether you have a professional license or not, it's still a harmful product, no matter how professional
Okay,
you are.
we appreciate that, but I think we need to discuss it. No
Yeah,
more
that was my
comments,
comment.
please.
And can, as part of the letter
Did
that
you
we're
have a
writing?
comment too?
No, I said no more. No more public comments.
Okay.
Are we, do we have an educational program for, these licensees and or the public so that rather than just having a policy that, people may not know about, is there some way that we can do more public education so that it's not only the licensees, but then the people who, I'm not saying we should tell people on their private property, but some people may not realize this, so is there any kind of like a fact sheet or educational kind of program that we could have just to, help support this effort?
We could do something like that, and there are organizations that exist already that do that. As far as the people that apply this on professional, but as their profession, they have to go to continuing
Yeah.
education and things like
It's their
that.
responsibility and educate, not
Yeah.
ours.
Yeah,
No, but.
and it's a state license, so it's education by the state.
Yeah.
So there's continuing ed and everything.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's some ads on TV now.
Mhm.
Seen them?
It works, that's the problem. It's hard to enforce. I mean, you can tell the town employees, that's no problem. But people who are adjunct, let's say somebody who's a gardener, does a number of houses, and so-and-so says, can you kill the weeds on this lawn?
Yeah,
He says, yeah, I'll do that. They don't even know what's being used.
right.
Yeah. That's another whole board. Yeah.
Well, this is a nice slice that we're taking, and it's a prominent one, and I think that that's a win. So I'll make a recommendation that we accept the, what would you call it?
That you'd want to move forward with a regulation?
Move forward with the regulation with a caveat about the professionals. And,
Okay.
And then we could, maybe eliminate that as well too, over time.
Yeah, and we'll get together and talk about what kind of regulation.
Just a quick question, I promise I'm so fast. If your town already only uses licensed state applicators, how is it different if you're gonna just put regulations in there and use licensed state applicators?
Well, we're trying to make it more official.
They very
It's one
rarely
step
use
along
it.
the path to making it totally banned across the entire Cape, which would be your goal.
Yeah,
Right, so they got that right. This is one step along that path that we're
It would be used as a last
accommodating your-
resort, and they would have to show proof that they have to use it. That would be all part, I think.
I would imagine that's what
Yeah.
we would want in our regulations.
Yes, they know that we don't want to use it, so hopefully we get to that point.
It's a good
Okay.
step
Third
forward.
attempt.
Third.
Okay, so, well, do we need a,
She needs a second. We need a second.
second?
Then we want a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Pass, thank you. All right.
The next item is to review a draft letter to the Massachusetts Department of Agricultural Resources regarding the vegetation management plan for Cape Cod and the use of herbicides. So last year, the Board of Health sent a similar letter to this to MDR stating our, that we would rather use safer methods rather than spraying. And there's a draft letter for you all to review, and if you approve it, Pam can sign it, and we'll send that off to. So the second letter in your packet is one that I drafted, and it has already been sent to Eversource. They sent out the yearly operational plan with a map of some sensitive areas, and I reviewed it, and they were missing 3 private drinking wells. So I indicated those and sent those off to them. And in that letter, I did also let them know that the Board of Health is in opposition of the use of herbicides as a treatment to control vegetation, just so it goes to both places. But the first letter is the one that comes from you all.
This one has, to Mr. Hayes, second handout here?
That's the one that I drafted and has already gone out.
Okay.
Yep, so the first one to Clayton Edwards. He's the director of the right-of-way program for Massachusetts Pesticide Bureau. It says that last month you voted to write a letter regarding the 5-year operation plan, and once again, you want to express opposition to the use of herbicides on the Eversource power lines rights away. And your reasoning is because it's, many parts of it are above the zone 2, the drinking water protection area, and there are some sensitive areas which include drinking wells, some wetlands. So it also goes on to say that you're concerned with potential for drinking water contamination with the overspray, and the overspray of herbicides near private property and recreational areas. There are some areas that go very close to Sand Pond and some other recreation areas, the Brooks Park, it goes right by there. So it's just a letter letting them know your opposition.
Now, next door to us, when I lived elsewhere, they cleared an entire, probably 3/4 of an acre of trees and brush in less than an hour.
Hmm.
With a machine I have never seen before, and hope I never see again, a hydro axe.
Yeah.
They come in and pick up the trees, cut off the roots, take the trees right over to a chipper, and there's a chipper that fills up a truck full of chips, all within an hour. So I don't think Eversource is going to be hurt too much by not using herbicides.
I'm just going to say, the very first sentence you said was the vegetation management plan. This is all for the yearly operational plan. So if you could shift it from a 5-year plan to a 1-year plan, then you're in the correct comment period. The vegetation management plan was last spring, so maybe this is a letter from last year and you're just changing it or something, that's fine. This is about the comment period. The yearly operational plan is open until, now they've changed the date and changed the POCA efforts to April 19th.
This one, it says a 5-year vegetative management plan and a yearly operational plan.
So the comment period is for the YOP, not the BMP. BMP
Okay.
says last year, just to let you know about that.
Okay.
Thank you for that clarification. It's a big difference for them. They would throw it away if you said BMP.
Okay.
So, thank you. That sounds good.
Well, I had 2 questions that I reviewed, which was a week or so ago, so I'm trying to, my 2 questions was, where is the YOP plan? Where is the map? And where is it located for Harwich? And then number 2 is there a list of the chemicals and and a mini summary of what the chemicals are and their safety? And where is that stored so that people who, well, I guess it's MDOT that's doing this work, but that if people in town want to know more about it, where would they come and get the info?
There, the emails that were sent to you had many, many links, and one of them was a plan.
Okay.
Yep, and one was a plan that showed where the rights of way are and where they're going.
Okay,
Yep.
great, thank you.
All this information is on photocapecod.org too for the people as well.
Okay, so, I guess we should just change that
To the yearly.
BMP to the YOP. And is everybody in agreement?
Yes.
Do I need a
Motion to
vote?
send a letter.
Okay, second,
I'll
all in
second.
favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you. I'll give you a call next time.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Thanks, guys. Yep, thank you.
Always gets a good aw.
That's how you build up your strength.
Beautiful. Okay. Okay.
All right.
Talking heavy.
Yeah, I know, I've been fine, but, okay.
Okay.
Moving on.
Well, there's still 2 more minutes to go before 7 o'clock. So I don't know if you want to give Perks another 2 minutes before it's 7 o'clock. They're the next ones on the hearing.
Oh, they were supposed to come during
Are
this.
they here?
Yeah, they're the next on the.
They're the next on the
No,
agenda.
they're supposed to come during this half hour?
No, 7 o'clock, so it's not quite 7 yet. We could approve the permit list while we wait.
Okay.
Okay.
Ship away.
No new permits, so they're all just renewals.
Okay, good.
Do I hear a motion to accept the permit, new permits?
I'll make a motion to accept the permit as listed.
I move.
I move, oh, well, I move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Permits have passed.
Yeah, we have. Is it 7 o'clock already?
Yeah.
Almost,
Yeah.
almost, exact time. 30 seconds.
All right, 7 o'clock. Next item on your agenda is a continued hearing for Perks, Taylor and Sarah Powell for 545 Route 28 to request an amendment of the restrictions on the current food service permit and allow an expansion of space into the existing retail area of the building. Proposal includes a request for indoor service space and patron use of a restroom to be installed.
I will open the hearing, sorry.
Good evening. I'm Bill Riley. I'm Bill Riley from Chatham. This is Taylor Powell, his wife Sarah, and Dan Ojala from Down Cape Engineering. And Dan has done an analysis which has been forwarded to Megan, actually in time for the last meeting, the one that was canceled for the snow, which establishes that we already have the septic capacity because of the way the septic system was installed. I'll let Dan explain that, and then we can talk about policy issues that might come from that.
Good evening. My name is Dan Ojala. I'm a civil engineer and land surveyor with Down Cape Engineering in Yarmouthport, and helping out with the analysis of the septic system at the site. One thing I'd like to hand out is some mapping, which shows, this is the Cape Cod Commission Regional Policy Plan. Oh, sure. There's two sheets, one large and one small, so it might be, the order might be off a little bit. I'll hold these two, and then, so it's kind of a fortunate site where this particular restaurant is. Just looking at it holistically or from a 30,000-foot view, what you find is that much of the Cape Cod is subject to either a Zone 2 nitrogen-sensitive area or areas that are drain into estuaries as mapped by the Mass Estuaries Project. And there's only a few areas of the Cape that aren't in these. You can see from kind of the large scale where you're zoomed out view that all along Route 28 you're in the blue area here. And then Perks happens to be right in this one little area that's not mapped in an estuarine area. And so fortunately for us and for the town, what that means is that the septic flow that's in this one little area, you know, 5 or 10 lots east and 20 or 30 lots west of us, say, that groundwater is mapped just to flow to the open ocean. And of course there you've got, billions upon trillions of gallons to simply flush and dilute and can uptake that little, few part per million of nitrogen and dilute it instantly. So they simply don't worry about nitrogen that's put in the ground here especially in anything that's on the scale or order of magnitude of what a septic system could do, because it's simply diluted by the tides and the currents and the trillions of gallons that's in the Nantucket Sound. So I just wanted to point out that, you know, from a 30,000-foot perspective, to have a little bit of septic flow on this particular site is sort of a no harm, no foul, no great concern on a large scale. So then zooming into the exact site, what we find is a small restaurant on a very small lot. And this is Taylor Powell's, the Perks site right now. And you've got a septic system that takes up almost all the area that isn't the building. So while it's a small lot, it's got a very substantial size septic system on it. And starts out with a grease trap, a 2,000 gallon tank, a 1,000 gallon secondary tank, and then a leaching capacity of 1,000 gallons per day. And this is, board is the as-built plan for this plan by Moran Engineering, who you've seen hundreds of times. But I don't know if it was Marty or one of the guys, but they had done this plan in '08, and you can see on here, I've underlined that they used 1,000 gallon per day design flow for the restaurant. So while some of the flows add up a little bit less, he was conservative, and there's a design flow minimum under Title V for any restaurant of 1,000 gallons per day, and this board did not reduce the size of that. Instead, the board, or the board before you that was operating in '08, saw fit to grant variances for some side yards, the side setbacks, reducing down to 5 feet and so forth, but got the leaching system in there. The SAS is shown an as-built with no variations. There was an as-built plan done, and we simply copied that and located some of the covers, and that's the updated 20-scale plan that you have before you. So after reviewing the Title V definition of approved capacity and the septic design plan that was done by Moran, it's my opinion that the capacity of the septic system at 545 Route 28 is 1,000 gallons per day. The leaching field and the septic tanks are all sized for 1,000 gallon per day design flow. And my opinion is based on the definition of approved capacity found in Title V. For 95 systems, the approved capacity is based on the Title V loading rates, not specifically on what might be written on a disposal works construction permit as it is for the 78 code systems. And as it's shown on that plan, which is dated 6/18/08, is 1,000 gallons per day. So between the board prior, or an earlier version of this board approving some variances for an existing cafe, and it was a cafe before our client bought it, it looks like this approved design capacity is for 1,000. And
Can I ask you a question?
sure,
You just said it was a cafe before your client bought it.
yes.
It was a dress shop before your client bought it.
Well, the design flow
According
that
to the deed that the people we bought it from, it was Mermaids by the Sea Cafe. So it was a tea room and cafe, even on a deed registered with the town. So it was. Same room we're trying to use. It was a cafe at one point.
Did it serve full meals?
This is so long ago, I never went there personally, I couldn't tell you. But
It was a dress shop.
they did tea dinners and movie dinners, and I don't know if it was permitted by this board or not, but it was an existing restaurant in the space.
Well, what did they use for a restaurant?
the year, what year did you buy, just roughly?
I don't know. It's gonna take me a second to find it on the deed.
I understand it, there's no first floor restaurant before you guys decided.
Were you in '05?
Yeah,
I think the
So
99.
question that's before you
99.
really doesn't have anything to do with the bathroom. I mean, we can deal with that when we get to that aspect. The question is before you, pointed out by Dan, is that it must have been considered a restaurant by your board.
No,
Well, wait,
I was on the board then.
oh,
I sat through every meeting.
can I finish? Because you allowed, Moran Engineering installed a 1,000 gallon system because they thought they needed to install it because there was a food establishment there. And I know you can shake your head, Frank, but the reality is.
That's what it says, yeah.
that the system is there because they treated it as a restaurant, and John Chatham signed off on it.
Yeah, this plan clearly says restaurant seats, 20 gallons per day, 8 seats, 160 gallons per day, the 2 bedrooms, and then they had some retail. And then they said clearly underneath, says use 1,000 gallon size for restaurant. So it couldn't be any clearer what Moran thought it was. And then it's, the sale was by Mermaid's Cup of Tea, Inc. Not what's in the name, but that looks like in '04 they resold to someone else. But things do change names. But the restaurant use is shown on the plan of record. The plan was designed, it was installed. There were some variances, and for upgrades, you'll often allow, some modest restrictions, but the system fits on the site. And then luckily, there's no real harm because the effluent from this isn't polluting a sensitive embayment or a riverine system. It's simply traveling south and going to the open ocean where it's easily diluted by one flush of the tide, and all that for a year is gone. So it's, we think no harm, no foul. It's a nice little business. I know the chamber could speak for it and so forth. And we feel it's a nice little downtown use. We feel that its approved capacity is 1,000. They got the 220 bedroom upstairs, and the balance could be used up by seats at 20. I think it puts us at about 39 seats. So would really love to request the board, grant the 39 seats, and we've got other permitting to do with the town. We'll go to the, site plan review with the planning board, and they can, judge the things that they look at, traffic and safety with fences and so forth. But it's our hope that, because there's no deleterious effect on the environment, the system is sized for it, you're not going to have effluent coming out of the ground. Plus, it's seasonal. So, where you could do this every single day, we do close down for a number of months, and everything gets a break and will probably last a long, long time at the rate we're loading it. So I think it's safe. I think it's approved capacity. I think the board has the ability to grant. And if you have a will, we'd sure appreciate it. And again, be glad to answer any questions if you have them.
Just one further comment. I think the principal concern of the Board of Health is ensuring the public health by making sure that the septic systems that are installed are not installed in a manner that will cause failure. I think that the point Dan is making is that this is a system that can handle 1,000 gallons a day. We don't think we're going to do 1,000 gallons a day, but I think because of the design and the fact that it's been in the ground a long time without failure, that in making your decision, one important element should be your comfort in knowing that if used even at maximum capacity, the system will not fail.
You've also got a lot of systems you'll see, even for new construction, will go right to the 5-foot separation between the leaching and the groundwater. Here we've got a full 7 between the adjusted high groundwater, 7.3 and the bottom of the leaching. So that's a little extra factor of safety to help filter out the pathogens and so forth. It's a good system in my eye. I think that Moran did a good job on it, and it was installed properly. And hopefully the board could find their way to granting, an approved capacity that matches what the system can handle.
And to continue on with the question that I think we're at a point now we could ask this, that you asked Dr. Cushing, is that from the information we've gotten, it's the intent that there'll be a bathroom installed for the public? If it's now going to be an indoor restaurant?
Not making a new bathroom.
That's what I mean, yeah.
Just and that should not be an issue. If Megan can help support us with that, we shouldn't really be concerned with that, other than the plans we're presenting before you. We're not making a new bathroom, we're just decommissioning one and moving it. That's the whole, that's the whole plan.
Right, yeah.
And only a paying customer can use it. It's not to the public. So
How
that,
are you going to enforce that?
with a key, which we
Well-
spoke about at the last meeting, that is requested.
I like that part. Yeah, I hadn't heard that.
Okay,
You're going to actually lock the bathroom.
maybe one of those lock codes you can see on the door, and you have to ask for the code to the bathroom.
Yeah, but once somebody's used it, are you going to change the code?
We could change it every day if we wanted.
Yes, I would recommend that you change it at least once
I've
a
been to
week.
plenty of restaurants that I might remember the code and I have to re-ask.
Because you're gonna get inundated by people coming in on the stroll.
I agree.
And they've already inundated your employees' restroom, right?
Right.
They're not supposed to use it, but they've been using it regularly. And when the word gets out that there's a public restroom in the restaurant, you're gonna be inundated by requests.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you, and we don't wanna deal with that either. I don't wanna have to clean that.
So as long as we can, as far as I'm concerned, or as long as I can be sure that that restroom is gonna be confined to patrons
Yeah.
only, I
That's
have
right.
no problem. But I need to be really sure.
Whether a key or a lock, we'll be sure, because again, it doesn't help us in any way.
Yeah,
that
I'll go ahead and
we're
pass
using
these
our
out.
restroom constantly.
You're not supposed to have the public using the restroom. That was the whole point of us granting you the ability to have the restaurant in the
Here's
first
the
place.
plans of the retail space.
The conditions under the restaurant that you have were that we approved it because there's a public bathroom across the street, and no one was supposed to use the kitchen bathroom. But from everything that's gone on and all the conversations that we had, it doesn't seem the least bit concerned that the public's using the bathroom. Have you been letting them use the bathroom in the kitchen?
We don't openly.
No,
let
it's
happen,
concerning.
but,
Yeah, I know, but it's
But-
wrong. Like, it was part of the ability to turn the dress shop, and I can use that term because that's what it was, that served tea, into a full outdoor cafe that serves a full bar and food. Like, that's the progression that's gone on. And the way that you got from the dress shop to the outdoor cafe that you run right now was us letting you put that grease trap in. And you put in a 1,500-gallon tank because it was one less thing to waive. We waived the setbacks, like your attorney just said. We waived there's no reserve, we waived that. And we capped it. Like, that was the deal that we cut with you. And now you come back under the guise that you can't afford to run it any other way, and you want more seats from us. And that's not right.
Excuse me, I want to.
Because you have the capacity, doesn't make it right to bump the seats up.
But why?
But could I interject?
The reason we gave you a limited capacity at the time was because you didn't have the ability to put the thing in without getting variances. It didn't fit a restaurant. The lot was too small. It's not on a sewer lot. So in order to give you the restaurant that you have, that you let the people use the bathroom whenever they want to, and don't seem compelled to think that that's wrong, is my problem with the whole thing.
So
Now you've gone from that to bringing in an attorney and an expert to tell us something that we already knew. We knew you put the right size tank in. There's one less thing to say no to. To put the grease trap in, you had to put that size tank in, right? So the whole argument to give you the ability to run all the seats that you have was that you do that.
Well, Frank, if I could,
That's where
mean, the suggestion-
I'm opposed to you right now, and I'm
The
gonna
sug-
vote no.
the
You've never
suggestion-
changed the,
suggestion that the public, i.e. non-patrons, use the bathroom like it's a herd coming in, is really, I believe, a misstatement of fact.
well, someone on this board has stated that they use it. She's admitted that they use it. He's admitted that they use
I
it.
actually said we try to stop them.
We tried to stop it, but you're there and managing it, and you're not managing it. You're letting them use it.
I think,
If a pregnant woman comes in and needs to use the bathroom, I'm not gonna say no to her.
I
Sorry.
don't blame you for not saying no.
Sorry. If a child comes in and is gonna
Sarah,
electric, okay.
But you're breaking
Control.
the covenants that we put in place in order to give you the restaurant that you have.
the,
And you're not even taking care of that. You could put another bathroom in that they could use right now and solve that problem. You could have done that a year ago or last year, it doesn't matter. You can put a bathroom in there.
Sir.
But what you're asking for is to turn the dress shop and the alley into a full bar with a very limited septic system that we gave you.
Okay.
I think
That's
one of
my
the,
point.
Well, just one of the things, I think, in talking with Megan and just, from what I've gathered on it, I think one of the concerns was the 482 number, because that set some people back. I think it was looked at and said, ooh, that's only about half of 1,000. That sounds light. But what it wasn't really noticed was that then it says use 1,000 gallon, and it bumped everything up. So I think once we know that we have the hydraulic capacity for 39 seats of fast food restaurant, and another 2 bedrooms of septic flow, there's no worries anymore about stuff coming out of the ground, and restaurants, typically there'll be a few people using the bathroom, but it's sized for it. And so, because we have the hydraulic capacity of 1,000 gallons a day, and now we all kind of realize that, and sure, there were a few variances that were tucked in, and if we had to replace it, we'd have to strip it out and put it back where it is with no reserve, but it's a good-sized system, and in my estimation, the flushes...
The size of the system.
So the capacity wasn't a concern, it was more just the amount of bathrooms? So we could rectify that. Whether people use the bathrooms?
I wanted to add a point. I respect what you said, I appreciate what you said, but some of it wasn't accurate.
I sat through this with your mom. She's the one that brought a different attorney here.
I understand.
We went step by step through it, and it went from serving tea in a dress shop to what it is today, a full bar with no bathroom, and now you're asking to expand it.
I'm just trying to speak.
You can go back to pointing about the septic that was installed, that started the whole thing, and say, well, we didn't put in a tiny one, we put in a big one. So we should be able to use it all.
Okay,
That's the
great.
problem.
Okay. Did you have a comment?
Yes, I just wanted to address some of the points he made, that we have a 1,000-gallon grease trap on site. I've had it pumped, which isn't a requirement by the board. They haven't gotten anything out of there but sludge. They can't get anything because there's no grease going in the system. We're all paper service. The grease we use gets recycled. It's picked up by a grease company, and they recycle the grease. There's no grease going in that septic. We actually, you said 1,500-gallon tank. We have a 3,000-gallon tank, which is half the size of the yellow building, and there's 3 restaurants running over it. So we're seasonal. They stay open year-round. This is like I really think, sorry, I'm getting
We're putting a bathroom in that the public can use.
That's a good idea.
We actually met with the contractor today, that the public can use. Handicapped
That doesn't get
accessible.
me to making the whole thing a restaurant.
Please.
Megan, are you comfortable with the capacity of this to handle 39 seat restaurant?
The-
As is?
The septic system has the capacity to handle 39 seats.
Well, to me then, I'm sorry, I don't know any of the history, and I appreciate that it's a iffy sort of thing, but.
It's all on record.
If you've got a I believe it, it's not that, but if you've got a restaurant that has adequate septic system to handle 39 patrons in a restaurant, and you lock the bathroom door and you don't give it out to anybody, not even pregnant women, not even children, absolutely, because, that's the camel with the nose in the tent, you gotta lock that, patrons only, period. I would be in favor. Sorry.
Should we listen to you, or do you have a?
Well, if we're ready for that, I'll close the hearing. Any comments from the public?
Yeah, like, Walter Mason live in Harwich, going on Miles Street, and, I don't know, I kind of get a different gist. I went to the last 2 meetings, and it seemed like it was all about maximum flow. It wasn't about they put in a huge system. There was no issue about the system, because there was a big issue about it, because you thought it was too small. Now we find out, he didn't even know it, it's much bigger than it is, more than twice the size that they're actually using. So, the variances get approved don't decrease the efficiency of the system. So, when you look at your purpose as the board here, I printed out, is to promote public good health, prevent disease, and protect the environment. This system does that. So you're not going against any of the things that you're supposed to hold up to as a board. And, things change over time. Things evolve. So places change hands. There's people have new ideas and new things that want to come into play. And there's not many places you can do restaurants these days, and they seem to really help the town. And that's why I moved into town, just for the nightlife and for just being able to walk to things. And I think this would be a real asset. So I'm in favor of it. So.
Anybody else? Be official and use the mic. I'm Cindy Williams. I'm the Executive Director of the Harwich Chamber of Commerce. And just to answer a few things here, the public bathrooms are across the street at our building. Many of the businesses in town use that. We're open year-round, other than maybe Christmas and New Year's. And on a daily basis, we have business guests that come in and ask where they can get a gourmet coffee. We had a business that was in town that went out of business. On a daily basis, people are looking for something other than a Dunkin' Donuts or a Cumby's coffee for 99 cents. The Powells have been a great partner. Having them be able to do this once again is going to fill a need that our guests that are coming in are looking for. I wrote down all my notes because I want to make sure I said everything. Many of the businesses that were within the foot traffic of this previous business that closed have actually had to close during some of the months that they could have been open. So there's been a loss for business as well. This town, as we all know, or this village has become a thriving village. People are coming. They're not just driving through any longer. And we're very proud of that. And I think all of you are as well. That's why we're all here. And we want to be on these wonderful boards to support new businesses. We've got 2 businesses coming in the spring that are right in the same area of Perks that will benefit from their business, will help these businesses grow. I have been to a couple of the hearings here, juggling the different board meetings the same night, but I think everyone has given them suggestions over the period. Megan's been phenomenal to work with on many occasions for other businesses as well, guiding people and letting them know what you need, what you don't need. But they're doing, the bathroom was a big thing, and they're doing that. They're going to have it locked. I wish some days I could lock the public one. But they're addressing all the issues that you all brought up, and they want to add something to the town and continue to help the other businesses grow too. So thank you for letting me speak. Thank you. Anybody else from the audience? Okay, thank you.
I want to ask you folks if you would be willing to stipulate that the employee bathroom also be.
Absolutely.
You hand out keys to the employees, right? Then I would be in favor. I see no reason not
Well,
to.
we'll hear your,
You want me to speak?
yes, we want you to speak.
Okay.
Recommendation, I couldn't think of the word.
So I don't have a clear recommendation because this is truly a board's decision. There's capacity for 39 seats. Title V recognizes the approved capacity of 1,000 gallons a day. Variances were approved to put this system in 2007. And the condition of no increase in flow was not put on the system explicitly. There's many discussions throughout the minutes of those meetings. There were several meetings in 2008 and then again in 2012. Going through those minutes, it was clear the decision to allow the restaurant-sized system to go in there was because the board agreed that there had been some kind of food service there before. So the board conceded, yes, there was food service here before, so we will allow a restaurant-sized system to go in. But it is a non-compliant septic system. It's not fully compliant. A truly fully compliant septic system would not have any variances, and this would be considered an increase in flow, so it would need to be fully compliant with a primary as well as a reserve area. So the existing system has the capacity for 39 seats plus the 2 bedrooms, but it did have variances, so you are within your rights to deny any increase in flow. I don't have an opinion on whether you should or should not do that.
I don't either, because I don't know how much variances make a difference to this around
These variances were dimensional and not environmental. So the variances that were
No, I understand that, it's keep close to the neighboring building.
close to the neighboring building and close to its own foundation.
Does that produce, does that result in,
No,
It was mitigated with a liner, too.
right.
as long as it doesn't result in a hazard, I don't think we need to reconsider it.
And the last sentence talked about the flow, but I thought that was answered with the fact it's a 1,000 gallon tank.
So the tank size doesn't dictate how many gallons per day the system is good for. It's the leaching field. So you could have a 5,000 gallon septic tank, but if the leach field wasn't that large, then that's the limiting factor. So the leaching field here is designed for 1,000 gallons a day.
Well, I think when we put our language in, when we take our vote, that all these concerns be written up as they always are, so that when, if in the future, there's additional concerns or modifications that they want to make that even go further against these variances, that it'll be very clear the reasons why things were approved or not approved or recommended for the next batch of people who are on the, work for the town or on the board.
And to say more about that point, it was very clear in 2007 and 2012 that they were limited to 482 gallons a day. That was very clear in the minutes, was that when this septic system was approved, it was for an approved capacity of 482 gallons a day. And then in 2012, when the changes were made to the restaurant where they took 8 seats that were inside and they put 33 outside, again, it was reflected in the meeting minutes that there is a limitation because of the variances.
Hasn't changed.
Does that mean that now, with these 30 seats, we will require more than 482 gallons a day?
Yes, you'd require 1,000 gallons a day. If they wanted 39 seats, you'd require 1,000 gallons a day, which they have, but they would need to provide 1,000 gallons a day without variances, as well as a 100% reserve area.
So we need to reconsider the whole thing. Is what
That's
I'm
what,
saying,
that's what,
right? We have to go
You-
through the variances and all that shit
if you
again.
go through the variances, it's enough. Because they don't have a reserve area. The only reason they got up to the cap that they're at is because of the
Well,
limitations.
it has varied. You can do
That
it
hasn't
with a variance,
changed.
you could do it. You
And
wouldn't have
today,
to be
they're coming
fully
back and
compliant.
saying, change that,
No variance?
raise the limitations, so we
Arguably,
can have
but
in-
I
so
would
we
argue
have more
no.
seats.
But you could argue it
But
both
nothing
ways.
changes.
I'm confused because I keep hearing, yes, it's okay to run a restaurant on a 1,000-gallon system, and yet it's not approved, right?
Right.
It's not approved for 1,000 gallons a
Had
day.
this been a 39-seat restaurant from the beginning,
Yeah.
we would have said, keep on going with your 39 seats. You can have variances. You don't need a reserve area. But it wasn't a 39-seat restaurant. It was an 8-seat restaurant.
Now I'm even more confused.
But, so,
This is critical, so you.
it is
we have to-
critical.
We've closed the hearing, so we're just talking amongst ourselves. right
sure,
now.
yeah. If you'd like, I could add, but
So what they bought was an 8-seat restaurant.
Yeah.
What we bumped it up to is a 32-seat restaurant,
33.
33-seat restaurant,
That includes the outdoor.
not changing the
Yeah.
septic system at all. And what they're asking for is that we scrap that cap and raise that cap to, how many seats now?
39 total,
39.
indoor and outdoor.
My concern, I'm sorry, I'm not as conversant in the flow rates as I should be, but my concern is if they run a restaurant with 39 seats, is it gonna overflow or block up or it somehow create a hazard?
No,
Then why should we have to approve it again?
because it had variances. It wasn't fully
I mean,
compliant.
this is legal, but not
Mhm.
really
And if
practical, right?
it's been the way of the board, and if you change that, it changes a lot.
Madam Chair?
And if, how do you say this, if it doesn't get approved, and I'm not saying it shouldn't be, then and they decide to sell it based on the decision, then the next group in there, if they wanna have the same kind of a situation, it's gonna be unresolved then too.
They would be,
Which I think is very unfortunate for the town,
they would be also limited to 482 gallons a day.
and no variances at that point, or does that variance live on no matter who owns it?
That variance lives on until that septic system is taken out of there and sewered.
Oh, which is approximately when on Main Street in that area?
The plans keep changing, but the current plan is about 30 years from now.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, that's not
Okay, I was
in
thinking it was like
the phase.
maybe max 10.
I'd just like to do a point of clarification for the members so they understand the limitations that we currently operate under and that are going to continue, namely that it's
Seasonal.
seasonal, it's paper only. and-
Convenience seats, they're not
Right.
deemed real seats, like we can't have a waiter, which is written into our permit. We're not allowed to wait on these people.
And what we're really talking about is adding 7 seats and 140 gallons a day, 20,
6.
so that's what we're talking about, 7 seats.
Yeah, that's the practical issue, but there's a legal issue here too that I wasn't aware of. And practically, I can't see a problem with it. Legally, I have to buy those more than I do about it.
Megan, as a point of order, are we following the exact same process that happened the last time that the 33 were approved, or is it a little bit different what we're doing right now?
What process is that?
I'm not sure, but you sounded like we needed a variance to go to the 33, so are we in,
There was not a septic variance at that point. It was based on their food service permit. So their food service permit limited them to 8. And then they came back in 2012 to amend their food service permit. And the board, it was not looked at as a Title V variance.
Okay. But now, we're probably going to correct that and have it look at as a Title V variance, or can we just go with the
I've
plus
been
6
thinking
seats?
about that and wondering if that's the cleanest way to do it, is to request a Title V variance, to have no reserve area for new construction. I don't,
I
that's
mean,
not
since
to me
you've already
what I'm
granted the
seeing.
33, I think the elephant, is already, his nose is under the tent already. I mean, it is just a modest increase from there to where we're at, and with the fact that we're not hurting the environment and we have the capacity, hopefully the board could find their way to that variance to just clean this up once and for all. It would, because I think that,
I have a question. I have one more question. I'm a frequent user of the facility during the stroll. My husband and I really like to go. But since I haven't bought food there, I usually have already eaten, I was under the impression that when you were seated, that there are waitresses now, so the part that you can clarify for me, I don't know if they only bring the food out that you've ordered inside, or they actually take your order when you're sitting down, and that to me would be, I'm not gonna say important, but an interesting factor, because I think if you're sitting down, there seems to be more business, more, flow of people if it's a regular restaurant versus one where you just get your stuff on paper and the waitress is bringing the stuff out.
So that when it was changed from an 8-seat indoor, eight seats, to convenience seats only with the 33, that stipulation that it was convenience seats is what got them from 8 to 33. It was the understanding that people wouldn't be there as long. It would be more of a takeout situation where people would order their food, sit down for a few minutes, pick it up, go out. Paper, yep, paper, plastic. So that was the concession of the board at the time in 2012, was just to give the 33 outdoor seats as long as they were convenient seats and not where people would linger and stay there and use the bathroom and use up more water and use up more of the facility.
I've been to the stroll a few times too, and that's how what actually happens.
Right, and
I understand that.
I want to, because I run the place, so I want to answer your question directly. 110%, we do not have waitresses. You've seen people bring your food out because it takes a while to cook your burger. You can't just order a burger and it's right there and it pops out. You have to close your checkout at the counter. You have to order at the counter. If you want water, you have to go back up to the counter. So we don't have waitresses or waiters.
People who look like they're waitresses.
Yeah, they just gotta drop it. They just drop. You've been to Sasua.
Like Sasua, Harvard.
You've been to Sasua. Same thing. Paper service. Someone's just dropping the food and they go.
They order, if someone asks where do I order, you order up at the bar.
We even have signs that say that.
And just as a point that might help everybody understand, Title V looks at different types of restaurants. And a fast food is 20 gallons per day per seat, but also a tavern or bar seat is 20 gallons per day per seat. So it's not like full service, you're doing the dishes, you're using a lot of water, but people could still linger there. So there's shades of gray on this, and a fast food type 20 gallons per day is a pretty comfortable number, in my opinion, for this sort of use, where it could support bar tavern seats as well.
Ready for a motion?
Just here to watch. It's your motion.
And then you guys can argue about it. I'm going to move that we approve the installation of an indoor facility with a single restroom, which, along with the employee restroom, will always be for patrons only and enforced by a lock. And I recommend the kind with a key, not just a push buttons. And I think I would move to approve under those circumstances.
Approve what? Approve what?
Approve that the restaurant be granted, okay to go ahead. I don't know how else to. put it.
With the 39 seats.
You're gonna give them more seats.
Yeah.
It would be 6 additional with the exact same conditions as exist now on everything else.
But my only concern was that the septic system didn't fail. And it apparently won't, so I'm okay with it.
I get it pumped every year. It's not a requirement, but I do in the fall when we're done. By John Hour Company, Robert Hour Company.
I hear a second.
I'll second it based on those, that language.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I have a question,
Nobody has
If
abstaining
you
then.
go inside, is it the same situation then? In other words, if you, for rainy days, you go inside, or are you gonna be inside all the time?
This is just a room we already have. It's under the same roof, and we just want to use it. That the same conditions of our permit are going to apply. That we're not going to have a waiter if there's a couple or a patron standing in the corner. We're not going to come confront them. If they want to order something, they got to come up.
Are you gonna put a new bathroom in?
We're going to move the bathroom.
So you would have an employee bathroom and one that's available for the patrons.
There's 3 bathrooms on site currently. 1 upstairs in the apartment, 2 downstairs. It's going to all remain the same. There'll still be 3 bathrooms on site.
So one for employees and one for patrons?
Yes.
What's the third one?
We live upstairs.
Upstairs.
But you're
Seasonal.
moving that one down.
No.
No, there's 3 in there
Oh,
already.
I see. So you have 2 upstairs.
One upstairs, 2 downstairs, one for employees and then the one for the patrons. Currently, there's 2 down there.
And the
The other-
patrons would be
the-
handicap accessible, right? That's,
So the
yeah.
one for the patrons is already downstairs?
There's
We're
2
moving it.
two
Yeah, it's there,
downstairs.
but it's in the kitchen, so it's not safe for our
So it's
patrons
not
to
for
walk through.
public use? Who uses that?
Wait, what?
Who
There-
uses the downstairs bathroom that's not for employees?
It's currently full of storage.
Okay,
It used to be part of the
Paper
dress shop.
towels.
okay, all
Lots
right,
of-
so it's, in other words, it's unused?
Yeah.
Okay,
It's like a closet, pretty much.
okay. Is it gonna stay unused?
Yeah.
You comfortable with that, Megan? I know you don't want to say.
Yeah, well, bathrooms, they can have as many bathrooms as they want, as far as I'm concerned. It's how many people are using them, which is how many seats they have.
The building code does require bathrooms and, you know, appropriate number for the seats.
It was all built to code and restaurant code to have it. It's all, we're not cutting corners on that.
Well, I made the motion, so. Shut up.
Yeah, no, I'll go with it.
Okay. Those opposed?
I'm opposed, just because if you reread the notes, you basically are making the argument that you could have made when we granted the dress shop to become a paper service place. I'm not holding you back. What I'm trying to do is be consistent with all the decisions that were made before you. None of these people attended any of those board meetings, and your mother fought long and hard to get it from a dress shop to the restaurant that you have. So I wish you continued success. I'm opposed to it, and I'm on record because of that, and that's the sole reason. I don't want to hold you back, but you've developed a pathway, if the board is so magnanimous, to take a retail space and convert it to a restaurant by granting these. So that's my statement.
And your
No.
vote? I'm in agreement. So the motion's passed.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
I appreciate the
But-
careful consideration. It's, a lot of thought went into that, and we'll
Yes,
try to be
yes.
good stewards of the property.
Megan, we'll be in touch with you.
What are you looking for? There will be a decision letter written and signed within the next week or so. Okay,
Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you at the school.
Yep.
You bet.
Keith, what did you think about
All right.
Good luck.
Next, we have new business, a hearing for Collins, 3 Kelly Road. Mr. Collins is appealing an order to submit a Title V inspection report for the property transfer in accordance with the Harwich Board of Health regulations.
Hi, how are you? I don't know that I'm actually appealing it. I got the notice. I bought the house. It was a lot that's next door to my house. It was vacant, fallen down, unnavigatable inside. I bought it. We paid cash. I wasn't aware that I needed to do something when I bought the house. Maybe I should have been, but I wasn't. I have no intention of running water right now. We've just spent the last 4 weeks cleaning the place out. 4 weeks and 4 dumpsters. And I'm going to do whatever the board tells me to do with regard to the house. I had no intention of,
Excuse me. You have quorum if I left right now. I can leave.
Yeah, you have a quorum.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave. Thank you.
Thank you.
I missed that, I'm sorry. This is a tear down you're talking about?
you know what, I'm still assessing whether or not it's a tear down. I've had a couple of people in to look at it. It might be, it might not be. I don't know yet. I had no intention of running water in the place.
Somebody's gonna live there then?
Nobody's going to live there right now. It's a house that sits directly next door to mine. It's a corner lot, and it's been sort of falling down for quite a while.
Well, we're not concerned with right now, we're concerned with from now on.
Yeah. Well, again, I'm not going to turn any water on.
Okay, but that's, you know, it's gotta be more
Longer term.
long-term question.
Uh-huh.
Say, well, if you get around to it, maybe you can put in a septic system later, you know, that's not gonna work. So, we need to have it decided, isn't that right?
That's what I recommended was, that you should contract with an engineer to design a septic system, start the process, and, apply for a permit. There's only so many bedrooms that the lot will support, so if
Mhm.
you have a number in mind, if you want to expand beyond what's there.
What if I want to take it down?
Your septic system you can still put in a septic system. It would
Do I
just
need to put in a septic system if I take the house down?
No, you don't.
So
You need a plan.
I'm sorry?
You need a plan for one, that's what she's saying.
No,
No?
no, if he wants to create a vacant lot, a septic system is not required.
Oh, okay.
If no,
Yeah, I was gonna ask you a really dumb question.
It might not be dumb. I feel dumb sitting here. I'm just glad I don't own a restaurant, that's all.
I don't get why somebody would buy a lot outright like that and not know if they're gonna build or not build. So if you don't build on it, it will just be
Could be for my children.
like they could play Frisbee or whatever on the grass. or
Well, I guess
something.
I'd invite you to my house at 5 Kelly Road, and you could take a look out my front door and sit on the front lawn and look at what I've looked at for the past 10 years. 4 years which were vacant, 4 years which have been vandalized, 4 years which have been condemned, I believe. You have photographs of the house. Someone's got photographs. Unnavigatable. Water shut off, electricity shut off, and I bought it.
Why couldn't we just say, we will approve not having a septic system once the house has been demolished?
Well, you don't have to do that. What we need to know, demolishing, if you want to do that, you just write us a letter and we'll approve
Yeah.
that. But if you're planning on putting a new house up there, we need a septic plan.
I would absolutely understand that. I just don't know yet. Again, I've had people coming in and out. I bought the house in December from a guy that's in Florida. That's all I know. I paid cash for it, and I have no money to build a house right now on it.
But the question
Come to my house, look at the window. You wouldn't like it.
I'm asking is, are you gonna renovate?
I have no idea what I'm going to do yet with it, sir.
Could renovate.
I will probably not be renovating as it is. If you knew my wife, she'd tell you that it's coming down.
Yeah, well, but you could renovate.
I could. It's concrete. It's a concrete structure.
We have to consider that you might have to have a septic.
And I have no doubt that if I renovate it, I'm going to put a septic system in, but I just don't know what I'm doing with it right now.
The question is whether we have a vote. We have to vote on it. That's the thing.
I have, again, I bought a house that was sitting idle for 4 years, which no one has lived in, and it has been run down. I've cleaned the place out and have only now begun to assess whether or not the place is even salvageable. I don't know if it's salvageable. It's a concrete structure. Inside is pretty messy. It might need to be gutted out. I've had someone that come in and tell me it's going to cost me X amount to gut the thing out.
Was it a dwelling?
It's a dwelling, but apparently at some point in time, it was some sort of an art museum. I don't know what the hell it was.
You can vote to put it on record that this house is to remain vacant with water shut off.
Okay.
And then when you
Yeah.
decide if you're gonna renovate or build, that you have to come back here and have a proposal.
He wouldn't need to come back here, just go through the regular
Oh, okay.
process.
Yeah.
He's here because it sold without a real estate transfer, which is against.
And I didn't know, and I apologize for wasting everyone's time being here doing that, but
That's okay.
Well, now you know.
Keeps us busy.
take a
Okay,
look.
do I hear a motion?
Yeah, I move that I don't know how to put it, that this property be allowed to avoid having a septic system unless renovation is going to be attempted, in which case it should be applied for, okay?
Too much.
No.
I didn't think it was right. Tell me what
This
I'm
property
supposed
is
to
to
move.
remain vacant with water shut off until
Oh, yeah.
a septic system is installed.
Okay,
Okay.
I so move that.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, sir, thank you.
Thank you. Megan, do you send something to me?
We will. It will
Thanks.
come in the mail.
Thanks a
Probably in
lot.
a week or so.
Perfect. Thanks again.
Next, we have a hearing for Moban, 11 Atlantic Avenue. To consider a variance request to install a new Title V septic system prepared by Engineering Works Incorporated. Variances from Title V minimum setbacks to allow a proposed soil absorption system to be 7 feet from the front property line where 10 feet is required. Variance request of 3 feet. To allow a proposed soil absorption system to be 5 feet from the side property line where 10 feet is required. Variance request of 5 feet. To allow a proposed soil absorption system to be 5 feet from the crawl space where 20 feet is required. Variance request of 15 feet. To allow 4 feet of cover over the soil absorption system where 3 feet is allowed. Variance request of 1 foot. to allow a proposed soil absorption system to be 46 feet from the coastal bank where 50 feet is required, variance of 4 feet, and variances from the Harwich Board of Health Regulation 1.210 to allow a septic tank and sewer line to be 42 feet from the coastal bank where 50 feet is required, variance of 8 feet requested, and to allow the soil absorption system to be 46 feet from the coastal bank where 100 feet is required, variance request of 54 feet. That's all of them.
Good evening. My name is Peter McEntee, and I am here representing Dr. Mohiman. This plan came before you 2 years ago with minor modifications. It wasn't installed because the system that was on site was functioning properly. It was a couple of cesspools, and it was for sale at the time, but it is only recently been sold, and the system wasn't put in. Therefore, the permit expired. So we're here before you again. You have a copy of the plan there, I think, and you can see that there's extremely limited space to put the system on the property. So we're just trying to make the best use of the space we can to get a system that fully complies with the size requirements and capacity of Title V.
I opened and closed the meeting because I didn't open it before. Any
So
comments
noted.
from the audience? Okay. And your recommendation?
Well, this system is great improvement over the 2 cesspools that are currently there. And these variances were approved in 2017. However, a permit was not pulled, so they became null and void after 6 months, so that's why he's back before us now. Dwelling consists of 5 bedrooms now. They're not proposing to increase that or increase any square footage at this time. So I recommend approval of the variances with conditions of the dwelling to be restricted to maximum of 5 bedrooms, no increase in habitable space or square footage without further review by the board, and the variances and conditions to be recorded at the Registry of Deeds.
The only thing I have any question about is that 5 feet from the crawl space.
Mm-hmm.
One, and I don't really know how far this stuff travels underground, but isn't that relatively risky to have that close?
10 feet is required for a slab, 20 feet for a foundation. Some of that is because of horizontal flow of effluent.
Exactly.
We could recommend putting in a liner. But I do believe this, is the elevation invert below the slab?
The elevation of the breakout elevation is 13.5. Slab elevation in the crawl space is 13, so it's like
Slightly higher.
a 6-inch difference, but typically the lateral flow through the sidewall isn't, it doesn't, go out laterally, it goes out and down, so it will go out, and so I mean, for 6 inches.
I'm looking ahead to the possibility that someday somebody may want to take out the half basement or the full basement. In this case, we're 5 feet away from the wall of a basement rather than just a
Well,
crawl space.
I think that I think that would be something that would have
They
to
would
come
have to come
before
back
you.
before you.
Yeah.
Okay.
For a reconsideration.
Just to take out the dirt?
Yeah.
Okay, good. That's my only question.
You want to make a motion
Yes.
to accept the recommendations of the Director of the Board of Health, which are listed on the bottom of page 1, as far as the maximum of 5 bedrooms, no increase in habitable space, without further review or variances conditions to be recorded by the Registry of Deeds.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have a hearing for Olson, 23 Betty's Lane, to consider a variance request to install a new Title V septic system prepared by J.M. O'Reilly and Associates Incorporated. Variances from Title V, 15.211 minimum setbacks, to allow a leaching system to be 2 feet from the property line where 10 feet is required, variance request of 8 feet. To allow a leaching system to be 13 feet from the cellar wall where 20 feet is required, variance request of 7 feet. To allow a septic tank to be 5 feet from the property line where 10 is required, variance request of 5 feet. To allow a proposed septic tank to be 6 feet from the cellar wall where 10 is required, variance request of 4 feet, and to request no reserve area.
I open the hearing.
Good evening. Bob Reedy, J.M. O'Reilly Associates. I'm here representing Andrew and Michelle Olson, the new owners of 23 Betty's Lane. We were hired by them in order to help them with the septic replacement in addition to some site work that you may have seen on the plan in the backyard. We did go and get approval from Conservation last week for all of that work. I'm here because of the septic system. After meeting with Megan, we adjusted the size of the leach field from 3-bedroom to 2-bedroom, which allowed me to remove the soil absorption system, so we're no longer within 100 feet of the wetlands. So the only variances we're asking for are to the property line and the foundation wall in the case of both the septic tank and the leach field. The reasoning for that is just because of the small size of the lot and its proximity in relation to the active cranberry bog at the back of the lot, in addition to a leaching catch basin that's up at the road. This was really the best spot to fit it in, and in order to do that, we needed to ask for a few setback variances to the property line and foundation wall. But I'd be happy to answer any questions the board has about the plan.
Close the hearing. Any comments from audience?
What's the address of the cranberry bog?
The cranberry bog is directly behind the property there. It's
185 Pleasant Lake Avenue?
I believe so, yeah.
I just have one question. Since you have the basement area, are there 2 ways to get out of that? If there were children downstairs for playing, are there 2 ways to escape?
The only access on the floor is the door in the backyard there. The other way would be to go upstairs. Yeah. I mean, there is stair access to the first floor, but, yeah.
Do you have, Megan, do we have a requirement that when, and it's really not what you're here for, it's talking about the basement, but I just get into that since I have possibly grandchildren. Is there requirements, if they have 2 ways to get out of the basement, is the stairs to the first floor and one other door to the outside adequate?
I believe so. That's
Okay.
that's the building code, and when
Yeah.
they go to apply to finish this basement, it will be routed through the building department.
Okay,
But I do believe through the house is one and out of bulkhead
okay,
is another.
good. Thank you.
Recommendation?
Quite a tight lot, and they've done well getting it sized appropriately. They are not increasing their bedrooms, so they'll stay at 2 bedrooms. They are proposing to finish the basement into 1 open room with a half bath. It's been approved by the Conservation Commission, and I recommend approval of the variances with the condition that it's restricted to a maximum of 2 bedrooms, no increase in habitable space or square footage to the dwelling beyond the plans presented with this application, and that the variance approval and conditions be recorded at the Registry of Deeds.
This always comes up every time, and I still don't know the right answer to it. Suppose somebody puts a cot in the basement and turns it into a bedroom. What happens then?
Don't tell me about it, because I will have to tell them to take it out. People use their houses however they want to use their houses.
We can't control that. I mean,
Yeah.
we could go crazy thinking that that would happen. I don't think there's anything we can do
Yeah,
about
yeah,
what
we
if.
can't police how people use their homes.
Okay. But
Yeah.
strictly
Unless it was a,
speaking,
full,
it's not
everything
compliant
apartment.
if they did that, right? Strictly speaking. So, that leaves sort of a gray area where somebody could, to be honest, would extort the owner. Say, I'm gonna, if you don't do this for me, I'm gonna tell the Board of Health that you put it in.
I didn't do that to my sisters.
It happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
We do hear
Just
about
that.
Yeah.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
I'd like a motion to approve of this proposal with the 3 points that the Director of Public Health has mentioned, the Board of Health, sorry, about maximum 2 bedrooms, no increase of habitable space, and the variance approval conditions be recorded at the Registry of Deeds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have a hearing for Hayden, 215 Lower County Road, to consider a variance request to install a new Title V septic system prepared by Bass River Engineering. Variance from Title V, 310 CMR 15211, minimum setbacks, to allow a proposed leaching system to be 6 feet from the property line where 10 is required, variance request of 4 feet. To allow the soil absorption system to be 10 feet from the bulkhead where 20 is required, variance request of 10 feet.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Tom McClellan. I'm a professional civil engineer representing Joe and Sandy Hayden. The Haydens have started the process of upgrading the septic system at 215 Lower County Road. This plan proposes to reuse the existing 1,000-gallon septic tank and remove the existing leach pit. We're going to replace the leach pit with 2 leach trenches, 32 feet long by 3 feet wide. This design does require the 2 variances that Megan mentioned. They're listed on the plan. Because of the size of this lot and the location of the house, it's impossible to design a system that conforms with the setback requirements in the new Title V. After trying a number of different designs, I think that this one complies as close to Title V as we can get. And I think where it's under the new Title V regulation, it's going to be more environmentally friendly than what's existing at the property. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
I'll close the hearing. Any comments from audience? Questions?
No? I'll make a motion.
Wait, can we
Oh,
hear what
sorry.
she has
Oh,
to
yeah,
say?
yeah, sorry.
So we have a dwelling that contains 3 bedrooms, and there's no additions or alterations proposed at this time. I recommend approval of the variances with the conditions that that the dwelling is restricted to a maximum of 3 bedrooms, no increase in habitable space or square footage to the dwelling without further review by the board, and variance approvals and conditions be recorded at the Registry of Deeds.
I'm going to make a motion that we approve this with the 3 items that were recommended by the Director of the Board of Health, that the dwelling be restricted to 3 bedrooms, no increase in habitable space, and that the variance approval goes through, is recorded at the Registry of Deeds.
Okay, second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
And next, we have a hearing for Dooley, 25 Moody Road, to consider a variance request to install a new Title V septic system prepared by Down Cape Engineering, Inc. Variance request from Title V, minimum setbacks, to allow a proposed soil absorption system to be 5 feet from the property line where 10 is required, variance request of 5 feet. To allow a proposed soil absorption system to be 11.9 feet from the foundation where 20 is required, variance request of 8.1 feet. Variances from the Harwich Board of Health regulations to allow a proposed soil absorption system to be 85 feet from the wetland where 100 feet is required. Variance request of 15 feet.
Open hearing.
Good evening, Dan Ojala. I'm a land surveyor and civil engineer with Down Cape Engineering in Yarmouthport, and helping the folks at 25 Moody Road out with a what hopefully is a pretty routine variance here. This comes under maximum feasible compliance, where you do the best you can with what you have. It's a fairly tight site. It's a 2-bedroom dwelling. We've got the floor plans there signed by the inspector. So we're just going to go with a 2-bedroom size leaching, so there will be a restriction filed on that, limiting it to the 2 bedrooms. We're at as far as we can be from that wetland, and still get a little system in here, staying away from the house. So we need a modest variance to 11.9 from the house. We are installing a liner to mitigate that, in case there's any horizontal flow of effluent. And we've got a full 85 feet to the wetland, which is almost to 100. It's in the same general area as the existing pit, so we'll dig that out, replace it with sand, and there's a B-layer removal on the south and east sides of the property. But and we'll be able to reuse the existing tank. So the variances are required, as Megan described, SES to lot line 10 to 5 to really tuck it up into that corner. SES to foundation 20 to 11.9, and your local health regulations are exceed Title 5 of 50, so it's from 100 feet, and we're reducing that down to 85 feet. So those are the variances, and H20 under the driveway, vented. Be glad to answer any questions if you have them.
Is there any questions? Recommendation from Megan?
This has been approved by Conservation already.
Yes, yep.
The system will serve a two-bedroom house in a partially finished basement. No additions or alterations are proposed at this time. I recommend approval of the variances with the conditions that the dwelling is restricted to a maximum of 2 bedrooms, no increase in habitable space or square footage without further review by the board, and that the variances and conditions are recorded at the registry of
Move
deeds.
approval of the health director's report.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you very much.
A little quicker this time.
Yes.
The last hearing we have is for the Main Street Quick Pick at 715 Main Street to discuss violations of the Harwich Board of Health regulations restricting the sale of tobacco products. We had a report from Bob Collette, who is the director of the Cape Cod Regional Tobacco Control Program, and he did an inspection at this site on February 26th at 9 a.m. and found various violations. He brought them to my attention and felt that they were numerous and warranted a hearing before the Board of Health. Specifically, the items that were found to be in non-compliance were self-service displays, were not in legal locations. The humidor was not locked. Large yellow Mass General Law signs were not posted, and e-cigarettes were available for self-service as well.
Hi.
Hi, so my name is Saumil Patel. My dad, Gary Patel, is the owner. I help him run the business. So we were aware of keeping all the products, away from the customers. So the humidor, basically, we thought it's not facing the customer. It's facing towards the counter, so customers cannot look at the humidor. Basically, they ask for it, we open it, we give it to them, but the keys were hanging there. So he thought, okay, somebody might get over there and reach it, which we understand now, like, it shouldn't happen. We have fixed that. It's locked up all the time now. About the display, so all the things inside the display are only reachable from inside the counter. It's just that we had couple things on top of the display which could be accessible, but they were facing like the counter side, not the customer side. So the intention was not to have it self-serve to the customer, but they could reach it, which we have removed. So now none of the products are customer reachable. They are strictly, like, the humidor is locked. Nothing could be reached from the customer on the display, inside, anywhere. We fixed all that while he was there, but maybe he thought, we need to come in and talk to you guys about it. So we have taken care of all the things he pointed out right then, but I'm just giving you an explanation, like, what happened. Like, the intention was not to make anything self-serve. But it did happen, and we really apologize for that. But we have taken care of all of those things, and it will not happen again.
Have you put a,
The yellow signs,
Yeah.
yes. As soon as he say that, we talk with the cigarette companies, and we have them now.
and you card people
Yes, yes.
And you're no longer selling the single cigarellos. He had noticed that there were singles, 3 for $1, self-serve on the counter. So our regulations prohibit single.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have also removed that. Like while he was there, he pointed out things. We fixed all of those. Yeah.
Okay.
So with all your, do you have other staff besides you and your dad?
Yeah, we have.
So they know all this?
Yes, exactly.
They don't
Like
have to pull it out by mistake?
no. We explained to them that they cannot stack it up where anybody can reach it.
Yeah.
The humidor needs to be locked. The key has to be inside. Even though like it's not even facing the customer, whatever it is, it should not be accessible by the customers now. In any ways.
Has the inspector come back in and checked everything out?
Maybe
every 6 months.
Yeah, they come in like randomly. Like, he didn't say that he has to come back after a while. He might come back. So
Probably will.
yeah, he might come back. So we have everything under control. So if he comes back, he's gonna see that everything.
Different things. We also, our agents here in our department can do these inspections as well. So we'll do them as part of our food.
Yes, yes.
Well, after a violation, do it have to be inspected again after the violation like this?
Normally, yes, and he had indicated that all of these violations were corrected on site, so before the inspector
Yeah,
left.
while the inspector was there.
This is February 28th.
Yeah.
So that same day?
Yeah, like what happened, he comes in and he says, why is it like this, why is it like that, and then he explains that it shouldn't be like that. And we fix it, and then you guys probably, this is like, we weren't aware of this issue before, so we know it now, but we fixed it back then. He might come back, anybody from the town can come back and check on it, but it has been taken care of.
Yeah, we brought you here to let you know how serious the violations
Yeah, no,
are.
definitely, we completely understand.
And to read over the regulations.
Yes, yes. Like, that's what I'm saying, like, the intention was not like that, but we understand that it should not be accessible in any manner.
Mhm.
Okay,
There's no action yet you need to take.
okay. Well, thank you for coming in.
Yeah.
Did you have any questions? Okay,
So,
thank you.
so sorry about all this, but thank you very much.
Okay.
Well, in case you're wondering, this is Sharon. She was on the wastewater support committee. Oh, okay. So the last thing we have is my report. Not very exciting.
Pretty hefty.
Well, there were some things that I wanted you to have. Inside here, we have report from the Weights and Measures program. Just information, and it can be sort of interesting to see what they do. They go around and do the sealer of weights and measures for anything that has a scale in town. We contract that out with the town of Barnstable, and they collect the fees and do the work for us instead of us having to do both. So we don't pay them anything, but they get to collect the fees.
She's not the person whose name's on the gas pumps, though. That's Kevin Freya.
Right. There's a couple of them. Yep, there's a couple of them. So it goes through about, how many they checked and how many were right and how many were not right. And there were quite a few that needed to be corrected.
Where does the money go to?
It goes back to the town of Barnstable because we don't hire a sealer of weights and measures. So instead of us having a full-time position in town, we allow the town of Barnstable to be our sealer of weights and measures. So the fines go back to them as a way of paying for their services.
But they also must do something with price checking because.
Yep. Price checking goes, they go shopping and they fill a cart up and they they check the price that's listed on the shelf and then what it rings up to be, to compare that the price that you're paying is the price that's advertised. So,
So you don't have a open situation, bait and switch.
something like that, or something.
CVS had quite a fine.
You know, what,
Actually, that's a great service, actually.
what does overscan mean?
I believe it's when, say, the price of the potato chips is 99 cents and they scan it and it's $1.10. So it's, they're overpricing
I
things.
see.
I believe that's what it
So the
means.
problem is marking the price.
That, or a computer glitch, or things don't get entered in the computer system and they're using an old price or something like that, so.
Oh, that's an expensive overscan.
Yeah, it can be, yes, CVS had quite a fine, and this is the one on, both of them had issues, both CVS's, yeah. Yeah, so that's, they give us a report like that once a year, so I thought I'd share that with you.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah. And then the other thing that's in your report, aside from my report, is I think something on the cancer registry, yeah, cancer incidences. I thought that was interesting to share with you as well. Something a little more public healthy and less.
When are they gonna update that?
I don't know. It looks like it's every 4 years.
This is what-
DPH, right?
Yeah, DPH, that
5
department.
years old, this is up to 2015.
Right, so it looks like they do it every 4 years, so we'll get one at the end of 19, or probably the beginning of 20. Yeah.
If you're personally really interested in this, you could probably call these people, that's what I was doing for, but their reporters, I believe, every 5 years.
Mhm.
They have a lot of things that they're monitoring, so having it more frequently may be quite challenging.
Yeah, so at the end of the report, it's just interesting to see what's happening in your own town. And there's a chart of different types of cancers.
Now, look at melanoma. That's up there.
It's pretty crazy, yeah, put your sunscreen on. Yeah, so it's just, it's data that we don't do too much with at our level, but, it could drive things like doing more.
The only, can I ask a question? I couldn't understand why this one said 2010 to 2014, and this one said, then, oh, it's two separate things?
Two separate.
Oh, but
Yeah.
I couldn't believe that there wasn't that much of a difference, that's what I couldn't.
Yes,
I thought there'd be a lot more, the second one, of different things.
yeah. So other things happening in town, last month I went to something called Girl Power at the community center, and it's a program that the youth counselor runs, and it's an after-school program for girls that runs about, I think it's 8 weeks, every 8 weeks a different group of third graders, girls come in and they get matched with a mentor, another female mentor, and they do things like healthy eating, or they had a Tai Chi person come in after I was there, so they do stuff to promote female empowerment and making sure they're making healthy choices and feeling good about themselves. And it was nice to go, and I did a glow germ.
I thought that was great.
Yeah, a glow germ is when you put on this lotion that has fake germs, and you put your hands under the UV light and it shows the germs, and then you tell the people to go wash their hands and come back, and you put your hands under the UV light. It
That's
shows.
very similar to what we did in medical school, only we used carbon black.
Yeah, I don't think the kids would like that, but yeah. So it just shows good hand washing versus bad hand washing, and it was just a fun activity for the girls to.
Who teaches the healthy eating?
I believe someone from the county went in from, do you know Kim Concra?
Oh, yeah.
She's a nutritionist.
From the Barnstable.
Yeah. If it's something that, you're personally interested in doing, I can get you in contact with.
I have enough volunteers.
Yes,
Thank you.
yeah. Let's see.
She's a registered dietitian, I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
There's a huge difference between that and nutritionist, so I was kind of asking.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, yes, much, more depth, and you have to have 75 continuing education credits every 5 years. And most places now will not hire a dietitian unless they're licensed. So I'm a RD and registered dietitian, nutritionist, and I'm licensed. Yeah, that's why I decided that maybe I could help the town. Who knows? I'm very interested in two of the things you were involved in. One of them was the food service program, so maybe when you have a training, I'd be very interested in what the new food code is.
Sure, I
Yeah.
just set that up actually today. It's going to be on April 20th. It's a Monday afternoon.
Yeah, I'm away till the 21st.
Okay.
But so when you do it again.
I'll have the PowerPoint presentation I can send to you. 22nd, yep, it's a Monday, 22nd.
And then the wellness committee, is that still the municipal wellness committee?
Cape Cod Municipal Health Group, yes.
So you know me, I'm up for, actually I spoke with Julian Sear about it, because I know that we're interested if there's a potential grant in the future, how we could get some maybe grant money, or the town could, or around, for the average person, maybe get some things around municipal wellness or mental health. And I guess they're gonna have a program now, a community benefits program out of Cape Cod Healthcare. I believe they're expanding their women's cancer program, and they have to donate a certain portion of their budget to community activities, so maybe there might be some hope for the two things that I know I presented on, prevention of wellness and healthy eating, and my cohort here, Dr. Cushing, presented on mental health. Maybe there might be the ability, who knows? They don't know enough yet, they haven't had the meetings, but that might be something to put the bug in all of our ears to be aware of, and maybe we could get some help for our average citizens in Harwich.
There's a blog that's going on for the, not blog, I'm sorry, podcast going on for the past 3 weeks out of 4 on anger management.
Anger.
Anger management, because
I can think of a few people at the hospital that need to take that.
And I'll tell you, very few people show any interest in it at all. And it's surprising, because I think anger is one of the major risk factors in this world, not just this country. And people say, well, yeah, it's important, but, you know, so I'm delighted that somebody's working on it. That it's an uphill battle. When you think of all the things that can go wrong because of anger, spousal abuse, child abuse, road rage, alcohol.
Stress, just stress.
Just read our daily paper down here, the Cape Cod paper, and see all the little incidences that they summarize of people in car accidents, and like domestic violence, and it's all related to the issue.
There's a lot of stories
Do you want to talk about the next meeting? Oh, yes. We should talk about the next meeting.
Get upset at somebody else driving too slowly. And they go after them. You see the third finger all the time, right?
So the next meeting is April 12th and April 9th. April 9th. And Pam won't be here.
I'm seeing the baby.
And I believe Cynthia is not here either. What are the dates that would work for either of you in April?
I can do any other week except that week.
Except that week, okay.
What's the date again?
The date is on the 9th of the meeting, but what dates in April are you available?
I'm not available the 8th, 16th.
8th through the 16th?
Correct.
So if we do something the week of the 22nd,
Perfectly.
you'll be back by the 22nd?
Yeah, I'm only going that one week, yeah.
So we may need to move it for quorum issues, okay.
I have no problem with that.
All right, I'll let
Thank you.
you know.
Is this you?
All right, you just need a motion to adjourn.
Oh, motion to adjourn? Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn? Second?
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Oh my God, it's late, huh? Yeah.